Good evening, folks. Red County, Blue Nation. Stephen Rorick, James McMahon. Jimmy, how are you this evening, buddy?
Boy, we're trying to stay warm. We got single digits, a little bit below, taking care of cows and chickens and ducks and whatnot. And how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I don't have any cows to take care of. So.
No, but you sure got some good hay to feed them.
Yeah, luckily I don't have to get out in the cold too much, or at least today. Carried the old man a little wood and did a few little things I needed to do. But yeah, I didn't spend much time outside.
Well, you've been out it in plenty.
It looked like it was plenty warm out there, and then so I just went out with my sweatshirt, and boy, about 15 minutes later, I'm like, man, burr.
No, it was pretty brutal. Little bit of breeze, a lot of humidity in the air.
Whatever, we're just getting soft.
Yeah, we're getting soft. There's no doubt about it. But at least I don't have a whole bunch of frost and stuff coming off of my beard and off my face, because that happens sometimes. You get a whole bunch of that wind and a little moisture, boy, you can get pelted out there feeding cows.
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty interesting week. The local level, Saturday, the Custer County Republican Central Committee elected their new officers, got that squared away. I guess we'll see how that transpires in the future. That whole, one of the things that I always felt about the Republican Central Committee here in Westcliff was, I'd often wondered what their actual duty, or what power do they really have?
How important are they?
They're not all that important when it comes right down to it, from what I can tell. One of the big things, and I think we spoke about this before, is their object is to raise money for candidates of the Republican Party. And that's really their sole focus, is to promote and promote candidates that are running for the Republican Party, gain funds to donate to the campaigns. I do have to commend them. At least this year, they finally made enough money. I know in the years past. So the secretary, the chair, and the vice chair have voting seats. So them three go to the state convention to vote. I know in the past that some of the people that have went to vote had to pay that on their own dime.
So they're able to pay that for them this go around?
Well, I would assume they would. I mean, last I knew they had like $3 grand in the till, so they should be able to have enough money to.
Well, that would be good to know.
To pay that.
Yeah, I think Andrew Zello is the Andrew Zeller is the new chairperson of the CCRCC, and then Ann Barthrop is still, she's the vice chair. So those people have worked together really good in the past with dispersing the COVID funds and stuff like that.
Yeah, it remains to be seen how it's going to go down. We hope for the best. That really is what it is. I mean, we're not really gonna. Really, where I was going with that was how much, what jurisdiction does the CCRCC really have, and promoting the candidates is their main focus. But the thing that they can do, in my interpretation from the bylaws, is their real only power exists within being able to nominate or appoint a commissioner if one of them happens to go down for whatever reason.
And that would only be a Republican elected official. Right?
Only a Republican. The Republican Party can't do anything with an independent or a Democrat. I mean, that's back to common, right? That was back to the basics of what government is. Republican Party only has control over the Republican Party. They would only be able to nominate someone that was a Republican commissioner that went down.
And that makes sense, because if the voice of the people had elected a person, a Republican, that represented their conservative values or Republican values, it stands to reason that that would be something where you'd want to respect the voice of the people, as opposed to maybe getting somebody in there that's not represented. And because there's just a handful of people now that it's putting that person into play.
Well, and that is the case, and that's why we often wonder. That's why, from a bystander, I often wonder why there's so much squabbling and so much bickering and fighting at the Republican Party over what? Over what?
Yeah.
What are you fight? And that's literally the only. That's the only thing they got, is to appoint. If something happens, resignation, recall,
Death
tragedy.
or whatever. Yeah.
And of course, that's how Lucas got into the position to replace Tom Flower,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the committee actually picked Lucas, and it stands to reason, right? Because I mean, he was the one that ran against Tom,
Sure.
right? So I mean, that all makes perfect sense. That doesn't have anything to do with it. Where I was going with that is sometimes it makes me wonder why there would be so much bickering between Republicans over something as small as the Custer County Republican Central Committee.
Well, and then it gets, yeah. I mean,
It's bad, folks. I mean, I know most people don't know about it, and then I mean, we're not here to try to talk about that part, but I mean, exceptional number of emails, a lot of real nasty stuff. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you would say about teenagers doing, but most of the time teenagers don't even get that repulsive.
yeah, and I've got a letter that I'm going to try to get into the newspapers that kind of reveals the behavior that's in that group of people. We're broken in precincts. And precincts is the first consolidation of the voice of the people. The voice of the people is what's supposed to be represented. And for whatever reason, that's just really not there's not an outreach program.
There's never has been.
Never has been.
I mean, that's the part that makes me often ponder why there's so much animosity between one group of people and the next, because what are you fighting over? Nothing.
Well, they're on the same team.
Well, obviously they're not on the same team.
So there again.
That's the big thing, folks, is it's the fundamental. I've said this many times, and I'm going to say it again. The fundamental rift between people in today's world is how you spend money. You're either conservative and fiduciarily responsible, or you just want to spend, and there'll be more. And that kind of leads us into the conversation of what we're going to talk about tonight. We thought
Perfect.
that a lot of the happenings with the Department of Government Efficiency, I mean, it's jaw-dropping. I mean, we all knew it was going on, but we just didn't know. We didn't have the proof of. That's the whole thing. You can surmise that somebody's robbing you blind, but I mean, until you catch them with the hand in a cookie jar, it's just an assumption, right? I mean, and that's what this great country's founded on is, you're innocent until proven. You have to be proven guilty of the crime. And that's what we rely on, is not just hearsay. So with D.O.G.E going in there and actually putting the hammer to them, I mean, here's some just a few of the things. $7.9 million. This is from USAID.
You said, it's what I call it.
United States, something for international development, Agency for International Development. I mean, I always thought it was something to do with kind of like the Red Cross, but that's not it. It's talking about international development.
And here again, the trickery on words. It's here. If you look at the Federal Reserve. That's a play on words. The Federal Reserve. It had nothing to do with the government. Those are world bankers loaning us money. That's all. But it sounds good.
Well, there ain't nothing about USAID that sounds good to me. I mean,
No, not now.
ever. Never did anything for me as a taxpayer, right? I don't care.
I didn't even know about it.
$7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language. Okay, that sounds real important for my tax dollars.
Well, what's that now? What the hell does that mean? You got to watch how you speak to someone so you don't hurt their feelings?
Well, it's
You got to properly address somebody?
binary gendered, so I mean, I don't know what all that means, and I am not going to take the time to figure it out.
I'm telling you, nonsense.
I mean, binary gendered means, I mean, we already have an executive order, right? Either
You're either a boy or a girl.
you're either one or the other, right?
Yeah, or you're confused.
Well, I mean, that's a
And
given.
that don't even matter.
That's a given, right?
But you're still going to have to pick one.
People are what they are, regardless of what you think. 4.5 million to combat different disinformation in Kazakhstan. I mean, and another big one. And so here's something, folks, that it's easy and difficult all in one to relate $1 to 1,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000 to 1,000,000,000,000.
Or
Right.
quadrillion.
These steps of what this is
Zeros.
how many more is it than the last go around? You know, you're talking about a teaspoon of sand versus a whole damn beach of sand. That's like what you're talking about, the difference in magnitude of this stuff. So,
It really is.
you know, when they're talking about spending 4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan, I mean, let's face it, 4.5 million is quite a bit of money, right? That's half of the money of the county budget here, a little bit less. I mean, if I had $4.5 million, I would be permanently retired. I mean, most people, that's way beyond anything that they could ever obtain. I mean, that's almost unobtainable by like 80% of the American public. But when you look at how much money they actually have gotten, and it was a lot less than what I thought. If I heard that right, I thought I heard him say 29 billion. So I mean, 29 billion is almost incomprehensible how that money could be spent for the betterment of mankind.
Well, it's spread around the globe, and I don't know how much of it landed in the United States and helped the American taxpayer.
Well, Politico got 8 million. None of it helped the taxpayer.
So here again.
This is all just slush funds for people that are in the government to take the money from the taxpayers, and that's what we're talking about here, folks. I mean, it's not as bad because there ain't as much money to take, but it's the same thing. I mean, all these people that they hired, we only have to work 4 days a week, all this stuff adds up to now that they've went in and sliced $3 trillion out of the grants, a lot of this stuff, and I'm just tickled pink.
I am too.
Unicog, you kiss my ass, man. They have no business here. And Silvercliff and Westcliff and everybody thinks they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're going to get all this low-income housing. Well, all I can say is I hope, personally, that they don't get the money for it, because that's the whole thing. That's what I mean, I had that conversation today with my dad at lunch. He's
Good.
like, low-income housing. He's like, what kind of hot smoke did they think they're blowing up our skirt here, folks? I mean, housing is not cheap. There's nothing about housing that's cheap. Everything that has to do with a house is expensive. Plumbing, electrical, building supplies, furnishings, all of this stuff is super expensive.
Well, septic,
all of that stuff. And of course,
roofing, all the maintenance.
all the bullshit here in town. I mean, of course, that's all already plumbed into the, but yeah, so I mean, you're looking at $30,000 for a water tap from the town.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
So the fact that low-income housing, when you tout you want to get low-income housing or workforce housing or whatever you want to call it, the fact of the matter is why should I be forced to pay for someone that can't pay for themselves? That's the part that, I mean, it's humiliation to the American people is what it is.
It really is.
Why? Why should I have to pay for someone that can't pay their own way? Nobody's paying for me. I do everything that I do because I can and because I do it myself, right? I mean, have I had a little push here and there to kind of push me over the goal line? Yeah, I mean, I've had a push here and there.
Inspiration and encouragement.
But somebody giving me anything? No.
No.
And so that whole funding thing to be cut, it tickles my fancy.
I think most of the Americans feel the same way.
If UNICOG can't meet their what they said they could, perfect. And it's nothing personal. It's not against any one single person that has to do with UNICOG or anything like that. It's the entity itself, and it's the principality of it, folks. I do not want to pay for these. I just don't want to pay for the stuff. And that's what the grant is, right? I mean, yeah, grant is one way to get money from the government back into the people's hands, but it's also very misleading because, I mean, we already get tax money, right? So why are we still looking to get more than that? And that's the thing about these grants. Do some of the grants maybe do? I mean, I'm not here to argue about if a grant is good or bad, because I'm sure that there's been some grants that's happened in this world that did some good. I mean, there's no question about that. But between the administration cost of the grants and who's administering the grants, most of the time that money is being used for ulterior motives. And that's been proven with, otherwise Trump wouldn't have shut off $3 trillion worth of grants all around the country. And so, like I said, I'm tickled pink. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. Like, I mean, I'm just like,
what's that got to do with the price of tea in China?
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of weird stuff, right? I mean, it's like, you want a sex change, man? I'll give you a sex change for 3 cents. It's called a machete. You're done. You don't want it anymore? Chop it off. See where you're at then. We don't need no $2 million to do it, man. Real good sharp pocket knife will take care of business, right? I mean, so it's bewildering to me that we let ourselves get into the state that we're in. And trust me, folks, we're here. I mean, Elon has done a great job. I was looking at one of his, kind of checking out one of his 19-year-olds. Just they had a video on him.
One of the kids I hired?
Yeah, and he's like reading these stuff from Pompeii out of the ash, these scrolls. He's translated part of these scrolls of these burnt, charred. I'm just like, man, he's got a lot more patience than I got. But they've actually translated part of this text.
So yeah, they figured out.
And that's what he does for a hobby. That's where I'm going with that.
Right.
That's what this 19-year-old kid does for a hobby, is try to translate stuff that's been burned up in volcanic ash, however many hundreds or thousands of years ago Pompeii was.
Well, yeah, then to make sense of it.
A little bit anyhow. I mean, nobody else has translated anything, and he's the first one to translate any part of it.
Yeah, so thank God we've got people of that caliber interceding on behalf of the American people, looking at the algorithms, but also looking at the different groups of people that probably conspired against the American taxpayer by funneling money. And that's what's coming through here. That's what's happening. They're finding out just how we were extorted who was doing it, and it all looked good on top, but when you start digging into it,
Well, and that's one of the things that we always talk about, and I mean, it seems like here's another opportunity to dive into it deeper, is from our viewpoint, they connived. Technically, they did connive against the American people. To them, that wasn't conniving. To them, that's what they do. That's what they've been doing. That's what they've done for hundreds of years. These career politicians just continue to fleece us like that's what their job is.
well, it is. I mean, it is. That's their spiritual makeup. That's their job is to.
And so, you know, for us to say they're conniving, we feel that way. They don't, right? They don't feel like they've done anything wrong. They're just like, well, what do you mean we can't? What do you mean we can't just keep spending your money? Like,
I can't even imagine it.
well, and no, you know, the thing is nobody's told them, no, you can't do it no more. And now look at the racket they're raising, you know, they're mad. I mean, they're real mad. They tried to get one of these bogus judges in there to put the order against Trump. And from what I've studied, which is not a lot, folks, I'm not going to lie. I got a lot of other stuff going on, but just watch the news. News is not really, I mean, most of the time I look at a lot of other stuff besides what's going on with the political structure, the high-end political structure, right? I mean, it's actually kind of refreshing to hear some of the stuff instead of just being repulsed. Whenever I would see Sleepy Joe on there, right? I mean, I would instantly turn it. I would never watch it because I'm not going to even let a little bit of my intellectual prowess be
Contaminated with that crap?
basically. I mean, I don't have the time or the interest or any of that to even begin to spend any time listening to someone just pump me full of lies.
Venom. It's like being snake bit.
I mean, it's worse, right? Because at
Yep.
least you know a snake's got venom. This is supposed to be an elected official that was supposed to take care of on your behalf,
Yeah.
for the betterment of mankind. So anyhow, it's been pretty interesting to kind of look and see what's going on. But back to the point is from what I've understood, and I believe that Pam Bondi spoke about this today too, is that there's three branches of the government, right? You got the judicial, the executive, and the legislative. Okay, the legislative is out on this round, right? So you're talking about the judicial branch and the executive branch. So what the judicial branch is trying to step in here and try to tell the executive branch how to spend the money. It don't work like that, folks. That is what how the charter, how the Constitution, how all the government was set up in the first place, is that each one of these branches of government are independent of the next, and they're not supposed to intermingle or intermeddle within each other. So the fact that this judge wants to try to stop the executive branch from auditing its own self is against the law, basically.
It does. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Well, and there is rhyme or reason. I mean, they're trying to do every last thing they can do, just like when they persecuted Trump, just like the J6ers, just like what happened to me here in Little Westcliff with the little DUI bullshit. I mean, the overreach is far and beyond. And I had a good conversation with one of the autonomy guys today, and he's a hardcore volunteerist and anarchist. And he was like, there's a guy 200 years ago that said, you know, if you would privatize the I can't remember the exact word he was talking about, but if you would privatize the law enforcement community, do you know how much better you would end up? And we've talked about that forever, just like the county, or I say county, but I mean like the state, the state road and bridge, county road and bridge, or whatever. Do you know how much better of a job and cheaper you could get done if you privatize that and put it out on bids? I mean, this has been quite a few years back, but a friend of mine lives up there in El Paso County. He was telling me out of like 75 trucks, 50 some or 60 of them wouldn't go out to plow snow because they had something wrong with it, and they're all brand new. Oh, the light don't work on this side or this or whatever. And I mean, there's so much laziness, contempt, just flat out disgust of the American people and the way that they treat the government tit, right? How you're getting money and the lack of respect that you have for that money stream, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. People just don't respect the fact that it's the rest of us that are paying the bill here, man.
Yeah. You're kind of reminding me of a story. Old Mick Fisher, Vietnam vet. He was my American history teacher in San Antonio, Texas. He said, Jimmy, here's a big deal. This is really simplifying stuff to you. He said in Russia, it's all for the state. It's communist. And, if your tractor breaks down, you're not really too excited about getting it fixed. You're still going to get your little part of it. So there's not a lot of incentive to get the tractor fixed and get it up and running. See, in America, there's consequences. If you don't get that son-of-a-bitch up and running, you're going to suffer loss, and there'll be consequences. So when you're on the government tit as a government employee, if you're not well aware of the ethical violations that we the people have failed so miserably in enforcing and bringing to the attention of them, you have this complacency with those kind of people. They don't have, there's no profit and loss there. There is no profit and loss in the government. And that's where I'm at with it. I could really elaborate on it, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, part of the problem, and I mean, we spoke about it. We're going to speak about it again, and we're going to speak about it again after that. It's about education, and the thing about Americans, and so my buddy that I was talking to a little bit ago, he made a really good point. It's all our thought process. And so he's like, he's like when you're driving down the street and a cop pulls in behind you, he says, what does most people think? They're like, damn, don't swerve, use your blinker, put your seatbelt on, blah, blah, blah. They never think, wow, there's a cop behind me so that I know everybody's going to do the right thing. I know nobody will run into me now because everybody's going to drive straight. There's a cop behind me. I know I'm not going to get robbed because there's a cop behind me. I know that I'm not. And people,
I wish I had a donut to give him.
The thing is that people are in a basis of fear. And that's the thing with the educational system as well, right? So while we adamantly believe or adamantly study and practice ethics, right? We want to do the right thing, and not because we're scared. We don't do that because we're scared of something. I mean, I'm not trying to get religious here. I mean, the man upstairs might be the only thing that I would ever be afraid of, and that relationship is between him and I, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Right? It has nothing to do with this little material world that we live in. That's my
And then
business.
again, it has everything to do with it.
That's my business and nobody else's.
Exactly.
And so mind your own business, you'll have business to mind.
There you go.
But the problem with education is that we've been taught as Americans to listen to authority. So it was your teacher. I mean, I learned that in school.
See,
I mean, it's got to be the law, right? I mean, we learned this in school, and that's the government and all this stuff. And so, I mean, we have that in our mind. So whatever we've been taught is the law.
right. See, and I wasn't raised that way. That's what makes me kind of who I am. I was raised, you question everything. You question the cop, you question the lawyer, you question everything. Because nobody's Mr. Perfect. And everybody's equal. And that's what makes me, that's what causes me to breathe the air that I do. And but in the most part of the things, what you're saying, Stephen, is 100% right.
Yeah, you're like you're an anomaly, man. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
whatever you're talking about doesn't apply to the rest of the world.
Doesn't even come close.
Doesn't even. It's
Nope.
not even on the radar.
So far,
I shouldn't say that because that's
You
not,
should though.
It's not exactly true though. I mean, there's a lot of good hardcore people out there, but I think that this part of it is true, is that the older that you are, the less chance you have for being
Contaminated.
and corrupted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was very fortunate to be bopped around a lot of different homes, exposed to a lot of different belief systems. I'm a very, very fortunate individual. So yeah, I'm not going to say.
But back to what we were talking about, or where we were going with this whole thing, is how we feel about how they're taking advantage of us. The people that are in, I mean, I heard was talking to Mikey today, the IT guy here. He mentioned something to me about a gal lost her job that worked for USAID, and I can't remember the specifics, but something with squirrels. We was studying gay squirrels in Africa or something strange, and she's like, I lost my job, now I'm homeless or whatever. And it's like, you've been studying gay squirrels in Africa with my frickin' money, and now you're whining and crying because you don't have a job anymore? I mean, one little part of me is like, well, I'm sorry that you don't have a job, but it's not my fault, and it's my money. So that's the end of it, right? I mean, my little give a shit is just for a little bit, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be insincere here, right? I mean, that's not where I'm coming from as from one human being to the next. But where I am coming from is that really that's all the more mental capacity that you have, is to get a job with the government and study some queer ass squirrel. And that is so mind-blowing to me. I mean, what do? Watch and see if they hook up with another male squirrel? I mean, how the hell are you going to tell if a squirrel's gay or not? That's so much bullshit.
Well, it takes some time, Stephen.
There is no chance. There's no chance there just ain't no chance to figure that out. They don't talk. There's no way that you can really. I mean, you might. I guess if you spend a shitload of money, you might be able to monitor their brain waves and try to figure out what the hell they're thinking by their brain waves. But other than that, you'll never understand what the hell the squirrel's thinking. You just ain't no squirrel whisperer up in here. So, I mean, that whole...
I mean, you got to take a test for that job?
Who knows,
How do you
man?
get qualified to even qualify for that job? Who even develops the qualification for that job?
It's easy because there's people sitting there every day. We're going to write a grant.
We're going to blow some smoke up someone's ass and we're going to get some money.
We're going to write a grant because grants is the way things are run. Well, so you're going to get a grant to watch a squirrel see if he's gay or not. So and I mean, I'm thinking a lot of real bad stuff, but this is supposedly a public show, right? So, I mean, I'm trying to keep it as clean as I can because, I mean, my mind is racing around some pretty nasty shit at this point.
You got your squirrel in your mind right now. Well, no, it's perversion.
Just because you're a queer bait son of a bitch doesn't mean that the squirrel is.
So here again, it's perversion. And it's an exploit in creating jobs and handouts and other government officials creating jobs for other people. And it's all about hire your buddy, feed your buddy. It's not being a servant to the taxpayer and looking at the loyalty. See, you owe everybody. When you're getting taxpayer dollars, there's a loyalty it's instilled upon you. You have to do it.
Supposed to be.
No, you have to.
Ain't nobody saying that but you. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly the problem.
So
we have a moral deprivation in this country.
That's the problem here is the way that we feel. Nobody else has even heard of it. That's the problem here.
There's a whole group up here that ain't involved in the Republican Party anymore that know it very well, but they will not stand for the derelict of duty that's going on up here. They're just ashamed.
Well, and that's why, and I can't blame them. I mean,
that's why this podcast is here. It's a revolution.
If it really mattered to me, I would maybe switch my affiliation, but it doesn't.
Absolutely, you're right.
I mean, it doesn't.
You're not going to change who you are.
It doesn't affect me if I'm a Republican or an independent. Now, I damn sure wouldn't register to be a Democrat because that's just not the way that I work.
Well,
but some of the things that Democrats used to say used to be the foundation of the Democratic Party. I've known some people that were they were registered Democrats, but they were as conservative as anybody that you'll ever run across.
Absolutely.
The D.O.G.E brothers, Gene and Jerry D.O.G.E, good friends with my dad. These boys were registered Democrats, but they were as conservative as anybody that's ever drawn a breath.
There was a just balance back in the day where Democrats and Republicans kind of balanced each other out. And there was a strong thing about the Democrats were interceding on the behalf of the people that didn't have much and attacking the people that had a bunch. But this has turned into now it's not that anymore. This is a global takeover.
Back in the day, a Democrat, one of their primary things to do was freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
And now,
boy, oh boy,
you listen to
shut her down.
The mayor of Chicago, and you listen to that broad speak. I was like, boy, I'll get a roll of duct tape after your ass.
Well,
keep your mouth shut.
And here again, the time that we went through during the COVID thing with social media, where people were banned from speaking what they felt was the right thing. They were convicted that the knowledge that they had would save people's lives.
Well, and that's what we're talking about death. A lot of people died over this. Over what we're talking about is freedom of speech. And I mean, if you couldn't see, folks, before, hopefully you can see now that, where we were going with this was global tyranny, whatever. They're going to
take over.
They're going to control you every last.
You'll own nothing and like it.
Yeah. You're going to eat the bugs.
15-minute cities. Let's let these wolves go out here. So if we get the 15-minute cities all set up, nobody's going to want to get out. That's kind of a self-governing thing. Don't let the wolf of you get you if you get over a fence now.
Well, hopefully we'll get them wolves back out of here. And I know that there's plenty of people that would sure enough put the hot lead to them.
I got 5 cows getting ready to calve right now, and I'm telling you, I have got some concern. Concern. So we'll see how it all goes.
$2.1 million to help the BBC value the diversity of Libyan society. Now, if I remember right, Libya is like one of the enemies, or one on the other side of the fence, right? That's like where a lot of the terrorists. That's Gaddafi and them, right?
I believe it is. I'm not
I can't remember exactly,
but I get the gist of it. I'm pretty sure the Libyans.
Yeah, Libya, right? Libya. It's that they're in Africa, right? That it's on the northern part of the African continent, but it's like, why?
It's a pretty good environment for people to do the wrong thing and to harbor them.
Value the diversity of Libyan society. And
it's everything that goes against the Republic.
There's one thing that diversity is great. It really is, man. I think it's a great thing. You do what you do, I do what I do, that guy over there does what he does. We don't do the same stuff. For me, diversity is great.
You mean different talents.
That's what diversity means to me. I don't mean fucking that you're wearing a goddamn pink slip-on or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about.
Now, diversity means
differentiate.
We're not all doing the same thing. We all let the baker bake. Let the mechanic be the mechanic. Let the farmer be the farmer. The farmer takes it to the mechanic, keeps the tractor running, and then the mechanic gets to eat the food that the farmer makes.
There's so much.
It's pretty
There's
simple.
so much to it. With 8 billion people out there, and that none of them are the same. Even if you think they're the same, they're not. They just ain't. It doesn't matter. People are not the same. Father to son, grandfather to son, or grandfather to grandson. All that. The people are just not the same. And so that part of it, in my opinion, is a fantastic thing. And it's actually kind of cool, to meet
Absolutely. Individuality.
meet someone
Individuality.
and learn what they've done. I mean, I'll have to kind of speak up for this. Joey Anderson, kudos to her. She spoke up at the Custer County Republican Central Committee. She was nominated for a position or two, and I was thoroughly impressed with her
demeanor.
Well, her resume, what she's done, what she is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've known Joy not a long time, but a decent amount of time. And I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time with Joy visiting with her, but some. But listening to her speak publicly in front of that group of people,
she had a really good.
I mean, I learned all kind of stuff about her that I was like, wow, that's really. I mean, that's 3 thumbs up. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
2 PhD or 2 masters, in different things, and so highly admirable in my mind.
And her husband is also very highly educated and has got a really beautiful spirit about him as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking about approachable and practical.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're not the kind of people that
common sense people.
Yeah, they're not going to turn their nose up to you and turn the other. And turn and look away or look down on you when you speak to them, right? I mean, they're pleasure.
Or do the wink.
Pleasure to speak to them, and
they don't do the wink.
I mean, I don't know what the wink is.
Well, I've had some of these people that I've been talking to, and they do the wink. It's like, I'm talking to them. I got your back covered. Let me give you the wink. I do a lot more other stuff, just talking to people, and there's some funny stuff that takes place up here.
I'm glad I.
And me saying that,
I'm glad I don't get the wink, pal.
So if
don't try that over here.
If there's
no winking in here.
This is no wink zone.
No winks in
here.
So
I don't do any winking. I can't break my eye to try to.
No winking in here, folks.
Each is no wink zone. Anyways, if the person is, there's actually 2 people that did the wink. They knew what I'm talking about. If they watch this, they're going to go, oh, yeah, he knows. Anyways, there's some funny stuff that goes on up here, and so it's all coming to a head, thank God, finally.
Well, and we hope that it's coming to a head. At least we got some pressure.
We're making it happen one way or the other.
We got pressure from the other end, and that's the main pressure is to shut the money off.
Absolutely.
If UNICOG can't get no money for low-income housing, then maybe we won't have low-income housing.
Well, we're trying to sell beef now. So.
$10 million worth of USAID funded meals went to an Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group.
That's treason.
That's a lot of food.
That's treason. Whoever was responsible for that, whoever funneled that money.
So I would imagine that the people on the ground maybe got, I mean, they say it's less than 5%. So, I mean, you're looking at maybe $500,000 of it got to the actual people.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's still treason. But, I mean, there's a lot of, where that troubles me is there's a lot of other entities that we rely on and that we want to help on the behalf of the American people, but we can't, the money never gets there. It's just like the grants, just like Red Cross. It's just like all this stuff. The money never gets to where it needs to go. Speaking of money, did you hear what Trump did? I mean, when they go down there, I see Christy Nome. She was down there too in North Carolina. And I know there's a lot of other big messes besides just that one. But I mean, I am glad to see. And that Jean Pierre, I seen her today. They were running a clip where she absolutely said that FEMA was not giving any money to any illegal aliens of any kind. They just busted them $59 million to the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. You know who owns that?
Soros.
Palestinian airline.
Yeah.
Or Pakistani airline. Excuse me, not Palestinian. Pakistani. So they've been directly given the money.
That's how you
to a foreign entity.
Absolutely.
And so I was just tickled pink to see that Don, the Donster, has, he's already been, I don't know that he's went to Hawaii, but he's sure been to North Carolina and LA to see what the heck is going on. Biden, If you don't know already, folks, he don't care because that's their agenda. They're trying to burn these people out and take their stuff. I mean, there's more rare earth minerals under North Carolina than maybe is in China, from what I hear. The 15-minute city, that's probably what's going on in Lahaina and in LA. I mean, when they're telling them people that you can't build back and that the only person that one contractor's going to build it all. I mean, that's what happened to, I mean, that sounds like Custer County. That sounds like what happened at the park. People are tickled pink. Oh, we got a grant. We got a grant. Well, a grant only going to take care of 20%, so we spend another 80% just to get a bunch of concrete, and they didn't even get an electrical permit on it. But they would have thrown the rest of us under the bus over. And they didn't even put that out on a proper bid, right? The people that got that bid already had to bid before the contract was ever even made. And it says right in there, if you look at that stuff, we've been a little bit slow, but I got it for the tech guy to get on the website so that you can look at it. The contract, they mirrored the contract from Durango, and they never even took the word Durango out of the contract. The word Durango's in there like 15, 18 times.
Yeah.
They never even had enough wherewithal or enough give a shit or enough time or whatever it is to even go through and change Durango to Westcliff.
And that kind of mirrors what happened with that Braden Wilson debacle. When all that verbiage and all that story that was being told came right from CCI that didn't really address the law and the procedure and the reason behind the law. But they gave so much fluff and bullshit.
So speaking of
Unbelievable.
Speaking of CCI, I was talking to one of the former commissioners about it. He was doing some catch-up work and was listening to us, and he gave me his 2 cents worth. He said when he was in there, they got a lot of good out of CCI. He said it was really a good organization, helped them do stuff, helped them stay in contact with other counties, like what it should be. Instead of a manipulating, cheating, lying, thieving.
So it's the same thing. I mean,
Well, and that's
it all turns bad when somebody's got an.
It's not the organization; it's the people running. That's
right. Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what D.O.G.E is finding out too. Is it can all be. It's just like the TV was developed for education, and then what did it turn into? Just a whole bunch of ha-ha.
$6 million for tourism in Egypt. Like, I don't know why they would need any help with tourism. They got the pyramids. I mean, if I had an opportunity, I'd love to go check them out. Just because. I mean, I think that's super fascinating. They still, to this day, can't figure out logically how you could build them. I mean, that's something that
something mysterious going on there, Stephen.
Well, it is because you can't explain it, so it is.
No,
mysterious.
I'm just saying them sending that money to them.
Well,
that's all I'm saying. No, the magic, the how wonderful, and it's like the seventh wonder of the world. One of the seventh wonders of the world is how those pyramids were built. No, I'm not saying anything about. I'm just saying for the money heading over there for the tourism. Really?
Yeah, so, I mean, we know what happened, that it just went right in somebody's pocket, but now here's a big one, folks, and I mean, this just twists my brain. I mean, I know there's no use getting upset, but it's like, I can barely abstain from anger. $5 million to EcoHealth Alliance, one of the key non-governmental organizations funding the research labs at Wuhan. So you're telling me that my tax money went to kill one of my best friends? Ooh, like I said, I'm doing my best not to get irritated, but that wrecks me at the core. How are them people not charged with murder?
I think it's crimes against humanity, and I think it's not over yet. I think now that the powers to be, hopefully we'll get a little bit of. I've had pretty good friends die of turbo cancer. I've had some folks just mysteriously die of this stuff, and it's very irritating that
We know that gain of function research is illegal all across the world because of what it is, folks.
Pandora's box.
I mean, you're talking about stuff that you shouldn't mess with.
Yeah.
And it's illegal, but our tax money went to funding it.
And how much was it?
It's only $5 million.
Oh.
And that's why I say.
And that's not even talking about what went
so out
through,
of $29
through
billion.
the World Health Organization or through Bill Gates. That's not even talking about any of that.
I mean, the amount of money that we can add up here, it ain't even hardly 1/100th of the amount of money that USAID's budget is.
Yeah.
So I mean, how much more atrocities, right? 1.1 million to an Armenian LGBT group.
Armenian? Well,
I forget where that is. Eastern Europe there somewhere. 1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. Like,
cowabunga. I guess man, it's unbelievable.
I mean, if you want to be that way, that's your choice, right? I mean, if you want to do whatever, that's the way I feel, right? I believe in
Absolutely.
in freedom because freedom is what I am. I'm free. And I mean, if you want to challenge me, then you better be ready for a battle because I've done everything to defend my freedom, and I still do defend her still today.
There you go.
So I mean,
you hear that?
freedom is the lifeblood of humanity, even though that most people have gotten so far away from it. All they care about is what their friends think.
Complacency.
I mean, it is complacency, but there's a lot more to it than that. It's
Sure
not,
it is.
It's
Convenience.
It's not just complacency, man. They have been taught the wrong thing. So there's almost, in my opinion, a certain amount of innocence there, right? You are only what you've been taught. So if you've been taught cutting somebody's head off is okay, and that's what they've been doing for 100 years from where you're from, then you're not going to think twice about cutting somebody's head off. That's part of life. And that's the whole thing. So, I mean, I'm not saying that people are innocent that do wickedness, but obviously there's an opportunity there, or the word repent wouldn't exist. You have a chance to repent from wickedness into doing the right thing. And we've talked about this hundreds of times, right? It's a constant effort to do the right thing. Just because you did the right thing 5 minutes ago doesn't mean the next thing that pops up, you still have to do it. And nobody struggles with it harder than I do, right? I mean,
no, I think everybody has to take up the cross daily. I mean, you've got to bring every thought into the captivity of what's right and wrong in your life.
Well, and a guy can say it about the cross, but it's actually a hell of a lot more simple than that.
Well, sure it is.
It's doing the right thing and action, right? I mean, that's one of the things that plagues people is inaction, inactivity. And that,
well, sure.
That's part of the complacency part of it there. $2 million to promote LGBT equity through entrepreneurship in Latin America. Here's one that actually is like the only one that sort of makes sense for me. $2.3 million for artisanal and small-scale gold mining in the Amazon. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Because you're using my money to try to support someone else, but at least that's a real activity. You're trying to get something of value into the economic stratosphere of this world, right?
Yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like you're maybe giving a individual or a group of people, if you're getting them the tools and you're financing them,
they ain't gonna. That's the
and
whole
you're
thing.
training them
They
to
ain't
stand
paying-
on their own 2 feet.
They ain't paying the money back.
Well,
So you ain't financing nothing. It's a donation.
no, I never said any of that. What I was getting at is if that money goes over there and it helps them stand on their own 2 feet, it gives them a hand up as opposed to a hand out. I'm all about that. I'm about helping other.
Well, if it was a legitimate thing,
But we got to take care of our folks here first.
If it was a legitimate thing, then give me the money back. Once you get enough gold, then pay me the money back, and then it'll be.
That would be a good structure.
Then it would be a legitimate transaction. That's how the rest of the world works.
That's a nice contract. If you go ahead and hit and you're doing good and you see your way clear, go ahead and be reciprocating.
5.5 million for LGBT activism in Uganda. I forget where Uganda is. I mean, I know it's in Africa there. I can't remember just where it's at. But once again, why? I mean, that's kind of a foreign territory for me. I mean, I'm trying to visualize or trying to picture. I've never been to Africa. I wouldn't mind going there hunting sometime if that ever transpired. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. But the stereotypical African, you see him running around in the bush with hardly anything. And I'm sure in the cities it's different. But you can't tell me that you're going to teach a bushman anything about LGBTQ, right? Someone that lives in a grass hut and walks around barefoot their whole life doesn't give a shit about that kind of thing, right? I mean, there is no room in their brain for that kind of. That's kind of like me watching Joe Biden, right? I'm not going to do it. So that would be my take of most of the people in Africa. I would think that they would be too practical and not in a bad way, but too simple to even care about something like that.
Here again, it just looks like a title to something going to somewhere where somebody else, they send the check and somebody else gets it and spends it. Underneath the umbrella of we're helping these people say, now looky here, you can be confused.
That's back to the grant writers. Who's writing it?
Well, it's the intent, and that's the deal. That's where the malfeasance comes in.
That's the grant writer.
The malfeasance that is put on people that get taxpayers' money. If you maliciously use that money, you got a problem. You got a big problem, and that's where this is going to go. And I'm hoping
we hope. I mean, up till now, there's been no problem at all. That's why we're $36 trillion in the hole.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm at. It's like nobody else could find this. Elon Musk has got such a nose for corruption. He was the only one that could open up the right door.
And I'm not saying that ain't the case, but in my opinion, that's not the case. There's plenty of people that could open up the door, but nobody else could get there without Trump. And Trump trusts Elon to take care of business. I mean, shit, man, it's simple accounting.
Here's the deal where I'm pissed off about it. They're doing the public's business up there, just like they do the public's business down here. One of them senators could have said, now I want to do a little looky in here. I want to see your books. I want to see what's going on here.
Hell, looky. Here's the money, so you don't looky. Plus, we know where your kids go to school. We know where your wife works. We know all this stuff. So,
and if you're not prepared to put your life on the line, like I'm just going to say, Steve Bannon. That guy's brilliant. That guy's got it going. He is a smart individual. He's one of the people that he's willing to go. He's willing to put his life on the line. And when you take the oath, see, and that's where I'm at. And that's why I guess I'm what did you call me, an anomaly or something?
Well, and
that's the bullshit.
Steve Bannon is never going to take an oath, just like Elon. And
Steve Bannon already took an oath. He was a Navy officer.
I'm surprised.
And they don't wear out.
I'm surprised that Trump would ever do it. Personally.
Well, now we can go down a...
If he didn't really, if he wasn't convicted and thought that he could make a change, why the hell would he go through the persecution? Nobody's been persecuted more than him, ever in the history of mankind. He doesn't have to do that stuff. He does it because he wants to. And that's the difference between a career politician
and a statesman.
And a true individual. That's, I mean, figuring out the numbers on that stuff. I know a lot of it's kind of hidden, or so it's still
what
just.
What do we really know?
It's just accounting. You have money and you spend it. That's all frick there is to it.
And
folks.
it comes down to receipts.
But
and being able to track it.
The only way that they were ever able to do that is with AI. AI is the only thing fast enough and smart enough to dig through the trash. It's so big. It's like a,
needle in a haystack.
Literally. I mean, it's even worse than that. It's.
I remember 3 years ago, this one gal, she found, and I don't remember who it was, but she found one agency, and she said 2 hours into this, we found $8 million that has been used unwisely.
What do you mean? What do you mean we can't look at Custer County's books, folks? Oh, no, you can't look at that.
We're fixing to.
Boy, you look just like Department of the Trade. You look just like the Democrats right now.
Yep.
Oh, you can't look at that. That's none of you. You don't need to look at that.
There was a group of them that had a chance to come clean on it, and I don't know why they didn't. But anyway,
it's just like the little old lady at the Republican Party that stood right up there and said that the people don't have a right to look at the books, and she honestly believes that.
Public's business. And they honestly believe that it's
now,
my deal.
And now she's part of it.
You bet.
Now she's an elected officer.
Yeah. So we were able to we went to the meeting, and we did ask the new chairperson if he was going to raise the standard of behavior in the education for the what's it called, the laws when you're raising money for elected officials. What's that called?
Fundraising campaign law.
Oh yeah, the finance campaign law. There's rules. There's 181 pages of do's and don'ts, and these people had not a clue.
It's back, Jimmy. It's back to what I said.
Education.
It's back to the start of what I said at the very start. There's the fundamental division between people is how you spend your money. That is the rift.
That is.
She don't think that you need to know about your money. Neither do the commissioners. The commissioners refuse to show us the books. Now, you can't look at that. So what are they doing? They're making up credit card receipts and doing all this kind of stuff. And trying to say, well, there's so much information, misinformation. Well, then why don't you guys come clean?
I mean, that's what I would do. If I were in there, I'd have to go, let's get this thing straightened out.
It's just like the Democrats, right? Who are the people that are making the noise? The people that have something to lose.
Well, they got their hand caught in a cookie jar there.
That's the whole thing.
It's just like weaning calves. You ever wean calves before? You ever wean a calf? Anyways, it's a noisy situation. And you want to get them cows and calves as separated as far as you can. But there's about 2 weeks of pretty wow on both sides. But when the weaning takes place, it's all over. So that's kind of what's going on here right now. There's a shitload of weaning going on. Well, they have 75,000 of them government employees go, yeah, President Trump will take the deal. We're out. They're running. They already know that they've done wrong. They're taking it, oh yeah, we're out of here. We're out. We'll pay you for 8 months. Get out. They're going, yeah, okay, we're out of here. Because they know the heads is going to roll. And it's coming. It's absolutely coming. There's no way around it. I think public pressure, if we can keep the public pressure on the law enforcement, I'm going to put it. I'm going to say it's the law enforcement, the people that charge the people, and then hopefully we can get a judge that, can go ahead and pass the sentence on.
That's the
real push here.
That's the
push.
The problem is there's no consequences.
And if there's not going to be any consequences,
and that's back to that. It's that thought process. It's the educational process of, well, we all deserve a trophy. Oh, well, you stole the stuff, but we'll just slap you on the hand and you can go about your way. Did you see the guy that was on the front page of the Sentinel? They caught the guy in Salida with a bunch of fentanyl and let him out.
Yeah.
With whatever, 90 days or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel if some of that fentanyl killed your kid, which it will? That shit is as deadly as anything that I've ever... I mean, I don't know anything personally about it. All I know is all you got to do is touch a certain amount of it, and it'll go right through your skin, and you're dead.
Yeah, it's pretty violent.
And so they're going to just let this guy out? I mean, what kind of a liberal-ass, cheese-ass, corrupt-ass, joker-ass...
I know where your kid goes to school. You said it earlier.
And that's the judge in Chaffee County.
And if you ain't willing to put your life on the line and stand up for the oath you're taking, you ought to get the hell out of the job. You got to be willing to take a bullet, at least graze your ear on occasion.
Well, and, I mean...
If you ain't got balls enough to get in there.
People don't, man. I mean, that's back to the anomaly, right?
Yep, you're exactly right. There's only about 1% of the whole population on the planet that's got courage and stamina and endurance to withstand the wiles of the devil.
There's actually a lot of people out there that can do it, but they've never been shown the right way. They've been lied to and manipulated to the point where they don't know.
Absolutely.
And
so you got to seek the answers. You got to actually seek the answer and desire the justice.
You're completely right, but the problem with that is that if you don't even know how to ask that question, you can never get there. So you make it sound so easy.
I do.
But it ain't. Them people don't even have a concept of what you're talking about.
Oh, no, I understand.
None.
Zero.
None. And so while
they're in position of power.
It seems so easy to us, but to them, I mean, it's like trying to figure out geometry when you're in third grade. It's foreign. I mean, you know what a triangle is and a square, but that's it, man. Triangle, circle, and a square. Maybe a rectangle. I mean, that's all that you understand about geometry when you're a third grader. You just don't know about it. It's all.
And you're
foreign.
right, Steve. I have too high of expectations.
I'm not trying to defend them by any means. I'm just saying.
You're just stating the reality of it.
It is the reality.
Yeah.
It's so easy for you to see, and I don't disagree with you one bit ever on that. But I understand the rest of the world. A lot of these people. I mean, it's a concept that they have never, ever heard of and never even begin to think of.
Right. And that's why the education. In different words, we need to start mentioning words and definitions. Not that if somebody really wants to educate themselves on it, they will seek this out. See, they'll seek it out and grow on their own.
There's a reason why they call it the Queen's enslaving English. I mean, English is actually made to just run you in circles. How can you have a language with the word no means completely 180 from each other? No, you can't have none, or I know everything.
Right. So they're spelled a little different.
We're not spelling when we're talking.
Right. So you got to be able to have some form of tangible ability to decipher this.
The problem is it's deceptive from the start. That's the problem. It's That's why they call it the Queen's enslaving English.
Right, and you can damn sure go with that. And I think it could be a bona fide reason to be mad at the American English. There's no doubt about it. You could go, oh, damn, they created this thing.
It's not American English. It is English.
Yeah, that's what we use in America.
It came from England.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
The
That's
Queen.
why it's called the English
Queen's
language.
Enslaving English. It came from the Queen and King of England is where it came from.
So what are we saying now? What are you saying to me right now?
They've been deceiving people with English for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. No what? Know it all or no, you can't get none.
Well, I'm going to ask for the... So if you take it out of context and if you're too stupid to figure it out, then you're going to get taken advantage of.
It's still trickery, though. There ain't no other language that has the
same sound, different meaning?
Yeah, that has the
Do you know me or no?
The contrast of words, right?
Sure.
Like, and if you were going to make something up from scratch, would you do that?
So here again.
Would you do that? I know you wouldn't because that doesn't fit
I'm
ethically.
Very analytic. It
doesn't fit ethically.
Right, exactly. So I hear what you're saying, but at the end of the day, my Lord, that's why I haven't been able to make it so good. That's what's held me back is the dang words. So that could damn sure be an argument.
When you talk about 50% of the people are illiterate.
Well, that's an intentional school thing. That's one of the things.
This whole thing is intentional. That's
one of the things I wanted to point out here. Was that the education. I don't know exactly where I got it wrote down here, but
and that's a really sticky subject. I don't know enough about it to really comment on it. I do know that their whole idea was to abolish the Department of Education and turn it to the states.
So here's the deal. Yeah, they
didn't you say there's 2 million people on the TIT?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable pension and taxes.
I'm pretty sure it's the second biggest entity or the second biggest agency behind the Department of Defense.
Department of Defense. So here again, you think about all of our property taxes, and there's a big expose that's gone on now. There's a big show and tell of what they're talking about on just how diabolical that whole agency really is. When you start diving into it, the property taxes, the pensions, and then the unions. I mean, this thing is... I don't even want to think about it. I watched that thing and I was like, boy, the depth of that. And here we go. We were dumbing people down with that thing. We weren't liberating people and talking about the truths and the conflicts and saying, hey, it's the Queen's language.
They have
and the
their
thing
agenda.
was set up to... I know, but exactly. But we didn't call them out on it. We didn't expose them. We didn't go down to the school and go, what in the hell are you teaching?
Part of the problem, and I mean...
We, the people, failed.
Part of the problem is that it's a sleeper, right? I mean, they instigated it over many, 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 many years. Fabian socialism, folks, is what it is.
Turning the pan up real slow.
It's called Fabian socialism. Look that up. Look up the definition of Fabian socialism. They don't care if it takes 200 years. They're going to get your ass. And that's where we're at. And so when you're talking about like people going to the school boards, I mean, what did they do? Weaponize the FBI against people that want to go to the school board.
The Catholic Church. There was all kinds of weaponization where they were saying that they were terrorists because they were going against that agenda that was condemning and killing people.
Because we don't want transvestite story time at the school library. I've said it a bunch of times, and I'll say it again. It's a good thing for me that I don't have kids that go to public school. Because I
care for other kids.
I do too, but I'm not going to go stand up in front of them and go. I mean, it's not my kid. You'll have to do that for your own kid,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm all about it, but I'm not gonna.
Right.
It's not my fight.
You're not going to put it's not your fight. Yeah.
I'm fighting all these other fights.
Exactly.
But I could only imagine. I know myself well enough to, if there was a transvestite, and especially if my little daughter was in there, I mean, I probably would literally crush his larynx with my thumbs, right? I mean, I'd choke your ass to death, and it wouldn't take but a couple, 2-3 seconds. So I mean, that's where we're at, folks, and so.
Yeah, on that on the Department of Education, 6.75 trillion. 6.75 trillion in 2024.
Yeah, so I don't know how the hell. I often wonder where that comes from. I don't know that much about it, but from my research, I thought we were spending about 5 to 6 trillion total per year of everything that we do.
So there was 90 billion spent on exactly. It's 6.7 in 2024 is what we spent.
Well, that's what I say. I don't
So
know.
here again, 90 billion went to the education. 4,500 full-time employees. $90 billion out of a $6.75 trillion budget.
And to me, that's not all that much. It's it's not even 10% of one, so it's like
Less than, yeah.
by the time you figure it all the way across the board, it's like what,
10%?
No, it ain't 10%. 10% is out of 6 trillion, 90 billion out of 6 trillion, man, is only like 2% or less.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if out of a trillion, 90 billion out of a trillion is 9%. And
2 million federal employees in 2023. Yeah.
but so yeah, I mean,
Federal employee salaries, 305 billion, 4% of the whole package. Yeah, it's what they're doing up there is what needs to be done throughout the country. It's holding people accountable. You can't just throw $50,000 out. Oh yeah, we hoping he wasn't going to get
we'll
fired.
raise your taxes.
Yeah, that's always the answer.
It is the answer, and that's
Instead of figuring out how to
what it's going to be like the fifth time tonight, folks. It's the fundamental reason why the division of people is how they spend the money.
Well, and for the life of me, I personally can't figure out how somebody thinks collecting the taxes and then hiring an administrative group of people that consume most of the taxes and administrating some of the functions. I mean, that's what Reagan said. He said there's nothing that the federal government can do as well as the private sector can. Period.
That's just like what my friend was saying tonight about law enforcement. That's what we were just talking about with the roads too. I mean, they don't have the gumption, and they don't have the gall and the drive to succeed because there's no competition.
Right. So they're going to be conducting a lot of audits of all the agencies. So they're auditing these agencies. They're going through with your AI stuff.
But we can't get one here.
No, we don't. We're at too high of elevation for audits.
Yeah, the AI don't work at this high elevation.
No, it's air's way too thin for up in here now. You can't do that.
With that being said, folks, we'll kind of leave you with a little chuckle for the evening. Appreciate everyone once again. What the stuff that we say is our opinion. We do our best to research it. If we made a mistake, if you bring it to our attention, we'll be more than happy to redact that on air. I mean, we're not trying to come to anybody personally. That's never been. I mean, if I want to say something to you personally, I'm going to come hunt you down and say it to your face. I'm usually not a confrontational person because I really don't care, right? As long as my freedom, you know, don't bother me and I ain't going to bother you is usually how I operate. But I think it's important that we speak about some of this stuff because it's obvious that there are just a lot of people that don't understand. And the root of it is the education and it's the ethics, right? It's the reason why. Why would you act the way that you do? Or why would one of my old mentors, he always told me, he said, it's not in what you do, it's in what you don't do.
That's a lot of it. That's nonfeasance. And here again, when you get into that realm on how people are to conduct themselves when they're a trustee for someone else. See, we put them in trust. They take the money from us at gunpoint, basically by taxes. But they're going to have to be responsible for it. And I don't know that they ever understand that.
They don't understand it or they wouldn't act the way they do.
So we the people, and there's a little, there's some things in, I guess you'd call in the law.
If you want to study gay squirrels, you can do that on your own dime. That's what you want to do for your hobby time, be my guest. Don't expect me to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the abuse that we're suffering. That kind of abuse, we don't need to be suffering. And it all comes down to what would a reasonable person do? So now the word reasonable in the the Queen's language, we don't even know what that means anymore.
They don't.
We don't have a clue on it.
Well, reasonable. I mean, you can find the definition of reasonable, and we talked about this before. How many times have they changed the definitions on all this stuff? But you know what? Did you see about the View?
No.
Do you know what the View is?
Yeah, them goofy bitches talking about different things.
Yeah, so they're in a heap of trouble. They opened up their mouth against old Carolyn, the press secretary. Between her, Carrie Underwood, and Elon Musk. Last I seen, Carrie Underwood smoked them for $1 billion, and they're going to take it off of the air.
Yeah, and it sounded like Melania Trump got a little piece of their ass too. So no, that kind of darkness is it always has its day. There's cycles and ups and downs in how life goes. Here again, you got to be able to evil triumphs when good men don't do nothing.
Well, and I was thinking about that the other day, and that's only, in my opinion, that's only partially true. Because, I mean, you can work your ass to the bone and evil will just flourish anyhow. I've watched that happen my whole life. And I'm over here doing all I can do, but it still just flourishes. So, I mean, I guess I know part of that saying is true, but I literally was just thinking about that in the last day or two about how, they say that evil flourishes when good men do nothing. And that isn't necessarily always the case.
Well, let's just put it this way. It keeps it down a little bit. It probably helps it slow down some. You know what I mean?
The thing is if people are paying, if they have skin in the game is when it's going to matter.
Well, people got skin in the game and they don't even know it.
If you don't have a kid in school, then you probably don't really care about transvestite story time.
I kind of do, because it's my country and those people are going to be running the country.
We're talking about, you're the anomaly.
Right.
And you're comparing yourself to everyone else, man, and it's, I mean, it's like, might as well be 3 worlds apart. Might as well be 100 million miles.
Well, I think the standard that's coming across in the golden age, where there's a group of people that are going to raise the standards, and they're going to talk with the right words and not abuse the words and mislead people, and raise the standard of Americanism and the golden age of how you're going to be. And I think that influences now is being unleashed.
The thing is, too, is the people been doing it the whole time.
The majority of people get it. I mean, it's a commonality.
They're either doing it or they're not. But the problem, the thing where we have an advantage now is hopefully that we have some help without consequence. If there's no punishment for malfeasance or
they'll keep going.
They will, because I mean,
they're going to roll.
Especially if you don't know no better.
Oh yeah,
If you're used to just cutting off people's heads, that's your life.
That's what you're accustomed to.
That's what you know.
That's your standard.
It's like no big deal. Whick.
See you later.
Shouldn't have been trying to steal a piece of bread or whatever.
Or whatever. You got to believe like me.
And why was you trying to steal a piece of bread?
Because I was hungry.
Most people, that's why. It's not because I already had $2 million in the bank, so I'm going to steal some bread.
And then there are some people that have that thievery in them.
There is.
And there's murderous people that have a murderous thing in them.
But that's far and beyond that's not my problem.
No, but that's the kind of the invisible
We got
stuff.
44 mag that addresses them kind of things.
Absolutely.
So, with all that being said, folks, we're about a little over time here again. We kind of got to ranting and raving, but
that's what we do.
Be kind, be great.
Oh, and Charlie wanted me to mention to people that hand count for the ballots. Charlie Ellison, he's trying to get a group of people to do the hand count thing.
I read his letter today. He says he's got 2 out of 30. And so he's basically telling people they don't care because they're not volunteering to hand count.
Well, and there again,
I mean, I'm kind of torn between that. I mean, if there was other people that were there or whatever, and you got to have bipartisan, there's got to be the same number of Democrats as there is Republicans. I just don't think they're going to get it done.
So the odds of it happening are getting tough. So anyways, I told him I would mention that. He's a pretty good patriot. He's an absolute wonderful individual.
Here I can... I think his phone number's on here. I guess I don't see his phone number, but his...
Oh, it's 720 810 1260. It's 720-810-1260. Charlie Ellison.
And his email is Charlie Ellison, that's CHARLEY Ellison, ELLISON @proton.me.
Yeah, that's the .me. It wasn't the .com. It was the .me.
Yeah, and so I mean that's. I mean, we never really have talked about the hand count stuff. What they're trying to get to is to do a hand count to show that we actually could hand count them. I mean, everybody wants to forget like 40 years ago or wherever. Like, how did we used to do them? We used to know election night by hand.
By hand.
No, we can't do it. It costs $10 a ballot.
So there again, that's a stronghold, and I take my hat off to Charlie Ellison for doing that.
I mean, we got tied up with the people over there that came down, the Deputy Secretary of State and a couple of them other ones, and they tried to argue with me, and I kind of got a little bit loud, and everybody else is looking at me, and I told them, y'all don't understand. I don't need any of you. I'll take my ass the hell out of here. I'll walk home. Bye. You think I give a shit what you think? Oh, you can't say that. Oh, yeah, I just did, so what of it?
Well, there again,
shit. You think I give a shit what all you people think? You're out of your mind.
Trying to harness your speech because you're politically not correct.
You can't say that.
Could you imagine in the discussion and
what? Because I won't swallow your crap.
Exactly. The men that were discussing the Constitution, the Declaration, and they didn't raise their voice and didn't have heated discussion. I mean, goodness gracious, that's what this is about. You got to be able to get it out. You got to be able to talk about it. You got to be able to have that difference of opinion.
What it really boils down to is this, like, if you open your mouth and you don't know what you're talking about, back in the old days, you would either get shot or slugged or removed or whatever, right? I mean, there was consequences from opening your mouth and not knowing what you're talking about. Today, that's not the case. Especially with social media, people say all kind of stuff that they just don't know what they're talking about. And to me, that's one of the cardinal sins.
So one of the biggest things is you may be right as rain, but people around you are so ignorant that you're talking over their head, and they don't understand it. That's another.
That's a scenario, but that's not what I'm talking about.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying at the end of the day.
If you know what you're talking about and you say it loud enough, that's what I'm saying. What I did at the big meeting with the Deputy Attorney General. Everybody's like, no. Man, you ain't my boss, folks.
Yeah, but they were trying.
You don't pay my taxes.
They were trying to deny you that.
They were trying to fill me full of shit, trying to tell me it cost $10 or $15 per ballot to count. Let's get the hell out of here. You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. Well, I know better than that.
And we knew that.
And then they come back around and tell us, well, it's only a few dollars. Why, you lying twit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's another whole escapade of crap that needs to be looked at.
And so, why Charlie's trying to do a good thing here?
Yeah, that's what we were getting back to.
I mean, the bad part about it is we're required by law to use the machine. So, technically, you're wanting to do a hand count, but to what avail?
The avail was to prove the timeline, the efficiency, and that it could be done. And in a contrast to the machine.
So, like all the stuff that we used to do in the past, that doesn't matter. So we got to try to prove it again. It's
that's exactly right. So here again, they want current,
and that's why probably that he's only got a couple, 2 or 3 people to volunteer, because it's not on the front of people's minds.
No, everybody's just trying to stay ahead of inflation, trying to keep the bills paid and the kids warm and fed, and that's what this whole thing's about. Is most people don't have the lateral movement in their life to even address what we're doing here, and that's why it always comes down to 1% of the people that make the difference.
So yeah, if you have any inclination, tell them what the phone number is again.
It is 720-810-1260. It's 720-810-1260.
So if you have any inclination, and if I've read the email right, I think that is up tomorrow.
I think Thursday.
They need at least 30 volunteers, including Democrats and unaffiliated, plus a volunteer budget coordinator. I'll just read this Charlie's email real quick, just so everybody, and then I know we're about due on time here, but friends and neighbors, just in case a bunch of you are waiting to see who will volunteer first, only 2 already overly committed people signed up to do the hand count, right? So only 2 people out of 30 people have committed. It's going to take 30 of them. Such few commitments means that even the more vocal and politically engaged are apparently not willing to invest time for an unofficial hand count. So that's the whole thing, is it's unofficial. So really all we're doing is trying to prove to ourselves that we can hand count. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing by any means, but...
And Kelly was...
Yeah, Kelly was all about it. She's going to let him do it.
She was good
at the end of the day, we're still required by the state of Colorado to use a machine.
Right.
So
we're already bound.
Yeah, where are you really going with that? That's my honest question. Is
sure.
What advantage do we really have besides saying, oh yeah, we can?
So we had a strong American group of people that said, well, we're going to do this and we're going to show it, be an example, and try to prove a point. We'd be getting somewhere, but here again, we don't.
There is a faction that calls for total victory, official hand count, and unplugging Dominion or nothing. Great objective, but the battle over our right to perform a hand count is far more winnable. A small step in the right direction. I will make a decision about proceeding with the hand count based on the volunteer responses that come in by noon this Thursday. That's tomorrow, folks. So,
yeah. So
I mean, that's
he's got a lot of work and time and effort, and
he does have a lot
trying to get that thing coordinated. And
he does have a lot of time and effort. And I mean, I think it's a great thing, but for me, it's like if they only needed one more person,
sure.
Then I might.
But you got so much going on already. I got so much going on right now. And this is a retirement community, and I don't know why the retired people can't kind of jump on some of that.
Well, and you know, once again, and maybe we can have Charlie on and kind of get his 2 cents about it, but if we show that we can do a hand count and all that's great, we already know we can.
Well, we've got years of examples of being able to do it.
What was they doing before they come up with the internet,
well, that's
folks?
what I'm saying.
And, and we knew on election night. So,
yeah.
All that being said, wish you a good evening. Be happy. Be kind. Be great. See you next week.
See you next week.
Oh my God.